met as the emperor, and she had become the empress. And just within a few days after that, this gambling match was dishonored in public, and then they lost everything. And then they had to go to the forest. Now, generally, when bad things happen, that is itself difficult to deal with. But still, even among bad things, we're talking more about this in the retreat we'll be having this weekend, that there are different degrees of bad things, and not all bad things are to the same extent difficult to deal with. There is tragedy and there is evil. Tragedy is, say, if you're walking on the pavement and somebody is driving a car and their car brake fails and they just run us over. We get wounded. That's a tragedy. But if somebody is deliberately trying to run us down, and they deliberately bring the car and run it over us, that's not tragedy. What is that? That's evil. So tragedy is something just that happens. Now, of course, we can't say that anything just happens. There is a cause. But when we see that somebody, a person out there is out to get me, that is quite difficult to deal with. So, evil is much more difficult to cope with than tragedy. Because when we see a personal agent behind, it joys us much more. So now for Draupadi, it was a shock that Duryodhana tried to do this and Dhritarashtra remained silent. And most agonizingly, the Pandavas remained silent. When they went to the forest, she was furious. Among all the 5 Pandavas, Yudhishthir, all the 5 Pandavas are Kshatriyas, but Yudhishthir is the most Brahmanical Kshatriya. And Bhima is the most Kshatriya. You could say Kshatriya squared. So Yudhishthir, he went to the forest, and then there were sages, and sages accompanied him wherever they went, and he would just get involved in philosophical discussions. And he seemed to have accepted, he seemed to be content. But 2 people just couldn't accept it. Who are those 2 people? Bhima and Arjuna also. And Arjuna is more like a counterbalance between Bhima and Yudhishthir. So Bhima is too aggressive, sometimes Yudhishthir tends to be too passive. So Arjuna balances. The other person who couldn't accept what had happened was Draupadi herself. So what do you do? How do you deal with this? And at one day she just bursts out. Are you angry with what happened? Don't you feel insulted? You lost everything. Don't you feel angry on my behalf? I was dishonored. Can't you see how all your brothers are in such misery? How can you just discuss philosophy with the sages? So at that time, Yudhishthir speaks to her. It's quite a beautiful discussion. We will take a few points from there. So one of the points he says, this is a point which comes repeatedly in the epics, that in this world, in the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, in this world, distress visits everyone, good and bad. Good people and bad people, distress befalls everyone. The difference between good people and bad people is not that good people don't suffer and bad people suffer. The very nature of the world is that distress, suffering comes upon everyone. But it's just the difference between good and bad people is that when distress befalls, good people act in a way to decrease the distress. Whereas bad people act in a way which multiplies the distress. So, we often talk about the philosophy and the principle of karma. that if we are suffering, it's because of our own past karma. Now, while this is philosophically true, I haven't seen anywhere, as far as I have read in scripture, when someone is suffering, somebody else comes and tells them, it is because of your own karma you are suffering. That would be monstrously insensitive. That person may sometimes say, I don't know what karma I must have done because of which I am suffering. But nobody tells, say, Sita, you must have done some karma because of which Ravana abducted you. Or nobody says, Draupadi, you are living like an honorable lady, but you went through such dishonor, something you must have done. No, that's never the attitude at all. It is so, while there are philosophical sections in scripture where the principle of karma is analyzed, but broadly, if we see the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, and even the Bhagavatam, they don't address so much directly the question, why do bad things happen to good people? The question they address is slightly different. Not why bad things happen to good people, but when bad things happen to good people, what do good people do? It's a significantly different question. Shift the focus. So Yudhishthira says the first thing that distress comes upon everyone in this world. And our goodness is seen by whether amid distress we can act in a way that will decrease and not increase the distress. And he says, oh Draupadi, that is the time when actually Yudhishthira, he admits, he says that, I feel so afflicted when I see all of you in pain like this. This is after our father Pandu departed, I felt responsible for all of you. And instead of providing, I caused you to lose everything. But he said, if I let that guilt crush me, I will cause more pain to all of you, cause more trouble to all of you. So he says, I am seeing this time, whatever reason it may have come, I am seeing this time as an opportunity for growing spiritually. And thus, I am getting myself absorbed in spiritual discussions, in philosophical discussions. So that brings us to the first point. As I said, I use an acronym. What is the acronym?
Past.
Past. So P is purpose. Whatever has happened in our life, so we need a purpose to move ahead. If we don't have a purpose, then the past will completely devour us. The past will keep replaying, oh, this happened, why did this person do like this, or why did I do like that? Just keep beating us up. So the mind will keep replaying past hurts. Now, there is no stop replay button in our mind. But what we can do is, if we start focusing on something, we have a purpose for ourselves, and that purpose occupies us. Then, although that replay may go on, we won't pay that much attention to it. Broadly speaking, in our life, there are two things. There is what we live with and what we live for. So what we live with are the various resources. So if we consider a car, then in the car, we have the fuel. That's what we drive with. But what we drive for is the destination. Where do I want to go? I want to go and meet this friend. I want to go to this program, wherever. So, now the world can take away what we live with. But the world can't take away what we live for. So, our means can be taken away, our wealth can be taken away, our health can be taken away, our looks can be taken away. As we grow old, maybe our intelligence may decline. But no matter whatever happens, we may lose all these things and still we may continue on, because that we have something to live for. For many people, the resources are what they live, not just with for. If somebody lives just to earn more and more money, then if they lose money, suddenly, what am I living for? What is the point of my life? So of course, just like when we are driving a car, fuel is essential, it's important. So similarly, money is essential, it's important. Making money is important, but what we are making with money is even more important. What we are making with money is even more important. So Yudhishthira says that whether I was a king or now I am in the forest, the ultimate purpose of life is to grow spiritually, is to develop our love for God, to gain spiritual understanding, and ultimately develop spiritual love. So he says, that purpose I would have pursued as a king, and that purpose is something which I can pursue even now. So for all of us, if we equate our means with our purpose, then sometimes we feel that life has made me purposeless. Now what is the exact difference between means and purpose? If somebody says that okay, I want to become an engineer or I want to become a doctor. Now is that a means or is that a purpose? At one level you can say it's a purpose. That's what you want to achieve. We study. But then after becoming an engineer, what do? Then we use the engineering degree to earn money. So earlier it was a means, earlier it was a purpose, and after that it becomes a means. So then is it a purpose or is it a means? The same thing changes from purpose to means at different times. It's that we can have various purposes. We can have various purposes that we may set up for ourselves, and they all can be important. But here the important verse of the Bhagavad Gita comes up. Karmanye vadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhur ma te sangostu karmani. And Krishna says that karmanye vadhikaraste. Now this might mean that you have right to do your work, but you are not entitled to the results. So some people say that, some people think that this means don't care for the results. Don't be attached to the results. So I write on the Gita every day. I write on a website called Gita Daily. So recently I wrote an article on 247, this verse. And then one person from America, he commented, he said that I read the Gita about 7-8 years ago. And then I realized, I thought that I should be detached. So from that time, I have stopped planning my career, I stopped planning everything. And I have just been floating along. I thought I was living the Gita, but I felt my life was completely directionless. So now what Krishna is telling is not that you should not set goals. So there is a difference between what Krishna is saying and what we often understand he is saying. See, what Krishna is telling us is that when you work, it's not that you don't work for the results, you work for something bigger than the results. Work for something bigger than the results means, say, a student. A student can study for gaining marks. And that's fine enough. A student studies and gets marks. But if, say, that student is going to do a PhD in that field and wants to go, say, studying physics to become a physicist, then just getting the marks or the grades is not enough. If they want to flourish as a physicist, how much they have assimilated the subject, how much they have trained their mind so that it can study and process and learn. So that is a bigger result. So the grades that we get is one result. But the understanding of the subject that we get is a bigger result. The training of the mind that we get, that is an even bigger result. So every action that we do, it can have different degrees of results, or different results at different scales. So when Krishna is telling that don't be attached to the fruits, he's saying that don't be attached to the smallest results that we often think that they are the main results. It doesn't say that you don't care for them, but rather have a bigger picture of reality. So the purpose of the Bhagavad definitely uses the purpose. Ultimately it says, Mat karma kran mat paramo, work for my behalf, work to attain me, work on my behalf. So it's ultimately to attain Krishna. So we all need a purpose in our life. And when we have a purpose, that purpose is something which you can look at. So we have what we work with and what we work for. Then sometimes what we might be working for something which is actually meant to be a means. So if somebody is, becoming an engineer, that's my purpose. It's okay, but what after that? Suppose sometimes something happens and somebody doesn't become an engineer. I was invited to Kota recently to speak to the IIT students, IIT coaching students. So there's one mother and her son, they met me after the class and they said, this boy has been trying for 8 years to get into IIT. Now his colleagues have already graduated and have jobs. He's still trying. Now what happens is sometimes some things might just not work. Now, if he makes that getting into IIT itself as the goal of his life, okay, it's great if you can get into IIT. It's great if you can get into Premier Institute. But the important thing is, it's the knowledge that you get. It can give you a good start, but ultimately, we cannot get so fixated on what is actually a means that we stop our life itself. So quite often, when something traumatic happens to us, we feel I've lost everything. There is a time to start examining what is it that we are living for. And maybe something which is a means, we have made that into our purpose. When we make a means into a purpose and then it is taken away, we seem purposeless. But if you understand that actually our purpose is something much bigger. Ultimately for each one of us, our purpose is to grow toward Krishna, to develop love for Krishna. But along with that also, we can have different levels of purposes. So rather than thinking about why did this happen, why did I do such a thing, okay, what is it that I want to live for? That keeping a purpose is vital. And actually there is no loss as disempowering as the loss of purpose. We often talk about loss of money, loss of power, loss of relationships. All of this can be disorienting, distressing. But this loss of purpose can be completely paralyzing. So we can, of course, as I said, we can have different levels of results. The ultimate purpose is to love Krishna and to attain Krishna's abode. But along with that, we can have, okay, if this particular thing didn't work out, what is it that I was trying to achieve through this? Suppose we are working, suppose we are working to develop a particular relationship. And so now we can try to do our best, but say the other person is not reciprocating. And if we make our goal simply improving that relationship, if the other person doesn't reciprocate, then we feel that I'm going nowhere with this. But instead if we focus on how can I become a better human being, more sensitive, more responsible, more kind, how can I try to become more of a person whom people will want to relate to? Now that is something which is in our control. How the other person reciprocates is not in our control. So actually, we need to have a purpose that is more in our control than out of our control. When we have that kind of purpose, then the past can't strip it away from us. So we'll come back to this point once again. But Yudhishthira says that I am focusing and using this time to grow in my philosophical understanding, to grow spiritually. So that is B. What is the next word? A. So to get A is association. what kind of people we associate with enormously shapes our thoughts. I say sometimes some people are chronic complainers. Oh, this is bad, that is bad, that is bad, that is bad. And they just keep complaining. And they feel sorry for themselves. And then if they meet another person like that, that person is also chronic complainer. Now it's amazing, when two people are chronic complainers, they complain about the whole world, but they don't complain about each other. What they do is, they come together and then they have a pity party. Oh, this person is so bad, that person is so bad, that person is so bad. Life is so terrible. So quite often, the kind of association that we have, that shapes how we are facing, how we can or can't face life. And if we are going to have some purpose which we want to move toward, see, we all have a purpose which can be in the future. We have some wounds which are in the past. So we need association that helps us to focus on the purpose, not association that keeps reminding us of the past. Of course, sometimes we may have to learn from the past. We may have to do some things to fix some things from the past. That's fine, and we can take some guidance for that from someone. But we need association that helps us to focus on the future. And if we get too caught in negative association, then even if we have enthusiasm, we lose all that enthusiasm. So for us, Rupa Goswami says in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that we need like-minded association. Sajati Ashay, people who have the similar mindset or similar category of desires. So if we associate with those who reinforce our purpose. So you got to Yudhishthira said that, yes, it might seem that I'm just denying or running away from the problems. But no, once I fix the purpose, it's fortunate that I have all these videos out there. And now I don't have any administrative business royal administration to be distracted by. So I'm taking full benefit of the association of these saintly people who are there with me. So whichever situation we are in, association is vital. We have various kinds of desires. And some desires are easily triggered. If, say, the object is visibly enjoyable. Say, if there is some delicious food, there is a gulab jamun, or maybe there is a barfi or peha or whatever, we see it and we get the desire. Because that object is not only visible, but it's visually attractive. So then, often the desire just comes straight. When the object itself is very attractive, the desires are triggered in a linear way. We see the object and we get the desire. However, when we are pursuing some bigger purpose in life, that purpose may not be so immediately seen to us. Okay, what am I trying to do? If I decide that, say, if somebody decides I want to learn scripture properly, or I want to become a more sensitive, more responsible human being, I want to grow spiritually. Now, how do we visualize all these? So especially when the purpose is not so clearly visible or tangible, at that time, the linear desires won't sustain us for long. It's almost like abstraction. Okay, what do I want to do? I want to do this. If I say I want to become a better human being, I want to become a better devotee. What does that mean? How do I do that? So when the purpose is not so easily visible for us, then what happens? We start feeling that maybe this is not worth pursuing. Because we lose the desire based on the lack of based on the visibility or lack of visibility of the object. And that's why when the linear desire is not strong, we need to cultivate triangular desire. Triangular desire means that we don't just see the object and get the desire, but we see someone else who is relishing the desirable object. And seeing them triggers our desire. So, for most things which are deeply meaningful, desires are triggered triangularly far more than linearly. Actually, it applies even for gross objects also. That's why we see many companies, say if you have sports players or movie stars, more than what they earn from their main jobs, they earn from endorsements. Or so many new say, cell phones, mobiles come up. So if some movie star says, or some sports star says, I use the cell phone. Then what happens? We see so many cell phones, everything looks good. But none of them look so good that we want to spend our hard-earned money on that. But so seeing the cell phone doesn't create the desire, but we see somebody else. This person is endorsing that. Let me try it out. So the desire is triangular. So it applies even for gross objects. What to speak of subtler objects. In 2014, it was I think the first time I came to Australia. So a devotee had invited me to their house for prasad. And then after when prasad got over, and then they said, we have baklava for dessert. So does anyone know what is baklava?
Yeah, Turkish sweet.
Yeah, it's Arabian sweet. I didn't know about it. So then I said, do you want a baklava? And the name baklava doesn't sound very sweet. So I said, maybe later. Now, there's another devotee with me. He said, give me. And then he took the baklava and he started eating it. And he was relishing it. And then seeing him, I said, give me one also. So, the linear desire was not triggered, but the triangular desire was triggered. So similarly for us, when we are striving to have a purpose, it's very important to have the association that boosts us in our purpose. It's a small thing, but it can make a big difference. So when we feel association is good, but it's not just association. The association that boosts that boosts our desire for that purpose, that inspires us to move forward in that purpose. And if we can get that, then putting the past behind becomes much easier. Just because even if we are, say, associating with devotees, just because everybody is a devotee doesn't necessarily mean they are automatically going to be positive or optimistic or purposeful. Everybody brings their own baggage from the past. And if somebody is habitually pessimistic, then even when they start practicing spiritual life also, they bring their pessimism into their spiritual life. Now bhakti can transform it, but it may take some time. So even in devotee association, we need to look for those who are more positive, more energetic, more who can inspire us to move forward towards whatever it is, whatever purpose we are pursuing. So that was E. What's the acronym? Past. So now S may seem similar to P, but slightly different. S is spirituality. Now, P as purpose, there can be different purposes that we pursue at different times. I may say, I want to become a good student, I want to become a good human being, I want to become a good professional, whatever it is, there can be various purposes. And here I am talking about spirituality, not so much as a purpose, but spirituality is of course a purpose, no doubt, which you want to ultimately pursue. But here I am talking about spirituality as a resource. Where does it stay?
Memory.
Yeah, in our memory, in our mind. And from there it keeps popping up. So when it keeps popping up, what do we do about it? The memory, our computer or phone memory comes with a delete button. Our inner memory doesn't come with a delete button. But what we can do is, we can't delete whatever is impressed in our mind, but we can overwrite it. So now when we overwrite, if we are if this is a particular paint and we want to remove that paint, scraping it is quite messy. But if we overpaint it, now if we can overpaint it by various things. So anything positive that anything we do that will create fresh impressions on our mind. But spirituality creates not only fresh impressions, but it creates extremely powerful impressions. What I mean by spirituality can have many different meanings. Here we are talking about devotional spirituality. We are talking about connecting ourselves ultimately with Krishna. Broadly speaking, for us, there are 5 factors that shape our behavior. One is our past, in the past lives, the karma that we bring from our past lives. That forms some impressions within us. Then there is the upbringing that we have, that forms certain impressions within us. Then the kind of people that we have, they shape our behavior. Then beyond that we have our free will. And then beyond that is God's grace. So, now what we can't do or what we can do, the impressions that are there already within us, we can't really delete them. And the fresh impressions that we are trying to form, how deeply they will be formed and how strongly will they come up again. That is not so much in our control. And this is where Krishna's role in our heart comes in the picture. Yes. One of the most interesting or puzzling verses in the Bhagavad Gita is 15:15, where Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto mattah smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedaishcha sarvair ahameva vedyo vedanta kritveda videv chaham. So he says that Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto. So I am situated in everyone's heart. That is okay. We all talk about the divine within everyone. But what is he doing over there? That part seems to be quite puzzling. He says, I give remembrance, knowledge and forgetfulness. Mattah smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Now what does this mean? Say, the first time I was supposed to go to America, I came to Australia and I was supposed to go to America in 2015. So I went to the airport and I realized the airport, I reached and I forgot my passport. Then I called up the devotee in the temple and he said, can you please get my passport? And that devotee told me, see, this is Krishna's warning. He doesn't want you to go into the world of Maya. That's why he made you forget your passport. Now, is it that when in the normal course of things we forget things, is it Krishna giving us that forgetfulness? That way anybody can claim they can be irresponsible and say, Krishna gave me forgetfulness. It's that. So, and some people have better memory, some people have poorer memory. So now this, we can to some extent correlate also with the structure of the brain. The different people have different brain function capacities, IQ and other things. So we could talk about our remembrance, our capacity to remember. It depends on our brain wiring. And that comes by past karma. So then when Krishna is talking about I give remembrance and forgetfulness, he is not just talking simply about the functional remembrance and forgetfulness that we have in our day-to-day lives. That way we see if we strive repeatedly to memorize something, over a period of time we memorize it. Krishna is not talking about the functional memory. Functional memory, some of us have more, some of us have less, and whatever we have, we can improve our practice. But Krishna is talking more about a foundational memory. Foundational memory means he's talking about our worldview, our conception of what life is meant for. If you look at that whole section of the Gita, he's talking from the previous verses 15, 8, 9, 10. That is, this is 15 the Gita, 15, 8, 9, 10 is talking about transmigration, how the soul goes from one life to another. And whichever body the soul enters into, the soul acquires that kind of conception. Shotram chakshu sparshanam cha rasanam granam cha adhisthaya manaschayam vishayanupasevate. So when a soul, say, enters into a tiger's body, then as soon as they enter into tiger's body, as that person sees a tiger sees a human being, an attractive human being. Say that person had been a man and now becomes a tiger. Now that person had seen an attractive female. Now the soul has entered into tiger's body. So what has happened? Someone who would have been a love interest now becomes a lunchbox. It's a complete change. So actually when Krishna is talking about, he's talking about the fundamental way in which we function. So we all have certain ideas of what is desirable and what is not desirable. And Krishna says, I give remembrance and forgetfulness. He's talking about, see, when we look at the world, by default, our attention gravitates towards certain things which we consider desirable. And our attention is other things go to the background. So when Krishna says, I give remembrance and forgetfulness, what he means is that he gives us the guidance based on our desires of what to focus on, what to not focus on. So now we are talking here about spirituality as an influence for getting past our past. So when we practice bhakti seriously and try to connect with Krishna, then if we connect with Krishna and invoke Krishna's presence in our heart, then Krishna reciprocates by doing what? The past memories which just pop up by default. The things which we want to forget, the past wounds, the past cravings, the past habits, which we want to forget but we are not able to forget. By Krishna's mercy, He will give us forgetfulness. And the things which we want to remember, we may want to remember our purpose. But what happens? We just tend to forget it. We all have our particular tempting objects. For some people it might be maybe television, some people it might be food, some people it might be so many other things like that. So we may resolve, I'm not going to indulge in this particular thing so much. But then what happens? As soon as that tempting object comes in front of us, Sarva dharman parityajya mayam ekam sharanam vraja. Just forget everything else and succumb to that. So now if at that time you could just have remembered, this is not really what I want to do, I want to do this. So that remembrance, it's not just an informational or factual remembrance. This recollection, the Bhagavad Gita in general, when it talks about smriti and apohan, remembrance when it is talking about, it is not talking about the factual recollection of the brain. It is talking about the affectionate direction of the heart. Something which we naturally love and then we remember that. That's why when Krishna says that, if you remember me at the time of death, he says you will attain me. Now what does that mean? Somebody could just live sensually throughout their lives and then when they feel, oh, I have had enough of my life, then they just take a gun in front of their head, put it, Hare Krishna, shoot. They remember Krishna, they go back to Krishna. Will that happen? Oh, we can't cheat Krishna. Because it's not, even if we are able to utter the name Krishna, and that's good if we utter, but still we may not remember Krishna. The point when Krishna says, you remember me at the time of death, what it means is that I become the foremost object of attachment for you. And when that happens, when he becomes the foremost object of attachment for us, then we naturally remember him. So that is what Krishna is talking about, that we remember him as the foremost object of attachment. So similarly, when Krishna says, Matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha, we all have certain things which we unthinkingly find as desirable. And then those things just pop up in our mind. But with our intelligence, we think this is not all that desirable. That is more important. But our thoughts don't go toward that. But what will happen is, if we practice Krishna Bhakti seriously, then what pops up as default within us, that will change. The impressions, see the force of the past impressions and the force of the present impression. The present impression that we are trying to create and the past impressions that are there. So what Krishna can do is, the past impressions will not get deleted, but Krishna can change the force with which the past, present impressions get impressed within us and the force with which the past impressions recur. And we all may have had such experiences, say, with respect to certain cravings. Some of us might have been used to maybe drinking tea or taking meat or something like that. And then we start practicing bhakti. Maybe before that, for years we were trying to give it up. We start practicing bhakti and we might give it up effortlessly. What happens is that craving itself doesn't come. So Krishna says that if we become devoted to him, so Krishna is of course our ultimate purpose, but Krishna is also a means to that ultimate purpose. Krishna can change the inner dynamics of our world. And that's why if we cultivate spiritual impressions within us by practicing bhakti, that can make getting past our past much easier. The wounds may not go away immediately, but the wounds won't affect us that much. It's just like if there's a wound and there's a scar. Now if the scar is fresh or raw, then even a slight touch of a cloth on it or a slight touch of a wall on it causes pain. But if the scar is dried, the wound is healed, the scar is still there, but now the scar doesn't cause any pain. So for us, if we practice bhakti, then gradually the wounds, they may not disappear. Some impact will still be there. We might still have the scars, but those scars won't agitate us. See, it is memories themselves don't agitate us. It is how much emotion is triggered by that memory. That's what agitates us. So if a memory doesn't trigger any emotion, then it doesn't agitate us so much. So Krishna can change that for us. That's spirituality. And that brings us to the last. What is the last one? T. T is time. Now time, I'll talk about this in 3 different ways briefly. Time at one thing means that, as they say, time is the best healer. If we just keep persevering, over a period of time, wounds that might have seemed, I can never recover from this, we will gradually recover from it. So there is no healer like time. We just need to persevere. There is this. Many people nowadays have mental health problems. And sometimes some mental health problems require, say, medication. Some clinical attention is required. But there have been studies done about how beneficial is medication. So there are many books about this. I recently read a book called Cracked, how psychiatry does more harm than good. So, no offense to the psychiatrists if they are here. There is a lot of good that is done also, and some people need it. But the point here is that they found, they had a graph that if somebody is very depressed, especially after some terrible event in their life, so maybe they lost a loved one, and then they are depressed after that. So then they had a graph that how fast, if somebody takes medication, how fast do they recover? And somebody takes the psychiatry and psychology, the main difference is psychiatrists prescribe medicine. Psychology is more talk therapy. Just talk and try to help you deal with it. So how much does medication help? how much does talking help and how much does time help? They found the difference actually is negligible. So it's like, say, if 22% people heal by medication, maybe 20% heal by talking, and 80-90% people heal by time. So there are some times when medication is required, but time itself is a healer. So in that sense, if we just are patient and keep moving on, then time heals it. Another sense of time is that whenever we have problems, our mind tends to catastrophize the problems. And we need to contextualize them, not catastrophize them. Contextualize them means that actually your sufferings, they're bad, but it's not earth-shaking. There have been many people have gone through difficult things, tougher than us. Yudhishthira Maharaj himself, when he sees how Draupadi is so disturbed, he asks the sages that we were trying to live virtuously. Oh, why did this happen to us? And then the sages start telling various stories. And there is a story of Nala Damayanti. That's an elaborate story in the Bhagavad, in the Mahabharata. And one said there is not much spirituality or bhakti in that story. But that is about a great king who suffered far, far more than the Pandavas. And he tells Yudhishthira, actually Yudhishthira asks and the sage is addressing Yudhishthira. But Yudhishthira is asking and the sage is answering primarily for the benefit of Draupadi. And then he says that how this royal couple, not only did they lose a kingdom to a rigged gambling match, but they also got separated from each other. They're completely alone. He said the Pandavas, all of you are together. Families are just together with you. So there are, whatever we are going through, there are people who have gone through much more. Now this is not again to minimize suffering. When they go through suffering, it is painful. But our mind, when it catastrophizes it, it makes it much, much worse. In many ways, the mind gets us alone and then it gets us. It gets us alone. And nobody is suffering like you are suffering. See how unfair life is to you. And then we start feeling like that, then we start railing against destiny and we start losing our perspective or our power to do anything about it. So when we need to contextualize, yes, this is a bad phase, but everybody goes through bad phases. Again, the point is not to minimize suffering. Suffering is there. But our mind will maximize, catastrophize the suffering. So when we contextualize it, it's a bad phase, we stay for some time, but it will get out. That's a second sense, see it as a bad phase. So first is that time is a healer. Second is even this grief or this pain which I'm going through, it's a phase, it will end. Third is when we are going through difficult phases, at that time when we are going through unmanageably difficult times, we can reduce our working frame to manageable units of time. That means, say, if somebody just lost a job, or somebody has lost a loved one, and then they start thinking, or somebody's loved one has got, somebody's got a family member who's got some terrible disease, and you don't know whether it is terminal or curable or whatever. And then at that time you start thinking, what will happen to me after 1 year, or 2 years, or 5 years, or 10 years. So at that time there are too many variables. And you start thinking too much long term, then we will overwhelm ourselves. There is a time for long term thinking. But when we are right in the heat of adversity, that time with too many variables, see, we all can control certain things and manage certain things. But when there are too many unknowns, too many variables, we'll get overwhelmed. So at that time, decrease your working frame of reference. It means, let's take it one day at a time. Let's take it, one day is also difficult, let's take it 1 hour at a time. Now, can I do the best that I can for the next 1 hour? And if you do that for the next 1 hour, sometimes when life is discouraging, then we need to encourage ourselves. And how do we encourage ourselves? It's not just by somebody coming and everything will be all right. It's fine. It's also a form of encouragement. But when really we feel encouraged, when we set up something meaningful and we move toward it. So okay, for the next 1 hour, I'll try to deal with this issue as gracefully as I can. I'll try to do things to the best of my capacity. If you do it for 1 hour, then thank God for giving you the strength, appreciate yourself, not in an egoistic sense, but just in an encouraging sense. Good job. You can do it, continue. And then, so time itself acts as a healer. And this is what Yudhishthira says, that this is what actually Ram also says to Kaushalya. He says that these 14 years will pass like 14 days and soon I'll be back with you. And Kaushalya says, these 14 years will be like 14 millenniums for me. Within 14 days, not going to like that. And the fact is that once we start getting involved in things, once we start getting positively engaged, then time seem to move faster. It doesn't seem so unbearably bad. So when we just take it 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, we will move forward. And we find that we've created better impressions within us, we have created a better future for ourselves, and the past impressions will no longer control us so much. So we are all products of our past, but we don't have to be prisoners of our past. So both Yudhishthira and Draupadi emerge from the exile as evolved beings. And Yudhishthira, I have a whole separate class on this, how Yudhishthira is earlier operating according to a very rigid idea of morality, categorical morality. But then he becomes more hard, he becomes more realistic, and he becomes more aware of life's reality and how to deal with them. Draupadi emerges also, although her anger is there, but it's significantly decreased. And we see that the same Draupadi who was practically, she was goading Bhima, how can you sit passively or go there and take revenge? But that same Draupadi, after she emerges from the forest, after the exile, after the war, when her own sons are killed, he says, enough of this now. There's no need. There's no need to punish Ashwatthama. There's no need to kill him. No need to make another woman a childless. I have lost my children. So what has happened? She has also evolved spiritually. Not that she is passive. She also recognizes that Duryodhana and Dushasana, they were brutal and they had to be killed. But that she also, Yudhishthira evolves, Draupadi evolves, and we all, in that sense, through life's experiences, we all evolve. And our past has made us who we are right now. But our present, if we engage it in a spiritual way, then with the past and the present, we all can become better human beings. We can create a better future for ourselves. And not only for ourselves, but as we become better, we can create a better future for those around us. And in our own small way, we can help to create a better world. So I'll summarize. I spoke on this topic of how to get past our past. We talked about 520 in the Gita. So Krishna says that by focusing on a spiritual purpose, Brahmavid Brahmani Sthita, you can avoid getting swept up by life's realities. I talked about Yudhishthira and Draupadi, especially in the forest. Draupadi went through a traumatic experience and how Yudhishthira helped her to put it behind it. So what is the acronym? He was purpose. Yeah. So we need something ahead of us so that we can put the past behind us. And life may take away what we live with, but it can't take away what we live for. If we feel what we live for has been taken away, then it's quite likely that we have mistaken our means to be the ends. So every activity has different level of results. So somebody may say, I want to go into IIT. No, I want to go into IIT. But IIT is a means. What is the goal? You want to become an engineer, or you want to become a professional, you want to become a human being who can contribute something worthwhile in life. So that's a deeper thing. So we need to look at whatever is it that we are agitated about losing, or we feel life has given us a raw deal about. We can see what is it that we are actually looking for through it. And when we have a purpose that is deep enough for us, then life can't take away that purpose from us. And that purpose helps us. There's no loss as disempowering as the loss of purpose. And if purpose is there, then no loss can actually disempower us or paralyze us. Then A was association. So talk about how our desires are not just linear but also triangular. And especially about things where the results are not that quickly visible, or not that attractive, or that are visually attractive or sensually attractive. Then it's primarily the triangularity of desires that attracts us. So we need that triangularity by having the association who inspires us to go toward that purpose. And S was spirituality. Here I talk about, we can have a spiritual purpose for our life, but I'm talking about spirituality as a resource. So I talked elaborately about matta smita jnanam apohanamji. When Krishna talks about memory, I give remembrance and forgetfulness. It is not just functional memory and forgetfulness. It is more of fundamental or foundational memory. What is it that we instinctively, by default, consider as desirable? What do we consider as what our life is for? So that foundational worldview Krishna will change. So the past impressions are there. We are creating present impressions. The past impressions can't be deleted, but the force with which those past impressions come up, and the force with which the present impressions come up, that Krishna can change. If he changes that, although the past might be there, it will become like a healed wound, a scar, but a scar that doesn't hurt us. So memories themselves are not the problem. It is the emotions that the memories evoke that is the problem. And when the emotional force of the memory is taken away, we don't feel that agitated. And lastly was time. In time I talk about three things. First is time is the greatest healer. If you just continue on, just medication can help somebody heal, psychotherapy can help somebody heal, time can also help people in itself. And the second was that we see time in terms of phases. Everybody goes through bad phases. And there are people who have suffered far more than what we have suffered. This is not to minimize our suffering, but to contextualize it. And this phase will also end. And third sense of time was that when we are going through difficult times, we reduce the working frame to manageable units of time. Think in terms of 1 day or 1 hour. And just encourage yourself by being somewhere purposeful in that 1 hour or 1 day. And then if we just keep ourselves engaged, and gradually find time will move on. And we will grow through that situation. And whatever our past is, we are products, but we are not its prisoners. And with Krishna's help, we all can we can go past our past and create a bright future for ourselves. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments?
Sure. Prabhuji, what is the difference between consciousness, memory and mind? And how does chanting work on each of these three levels? How you said with time, with chanting and with devotional service, your basic memory itself is tarnished and it imbibes newer memories. So if you can explain this difference between consciousness, memory, mind, and how does chanting help, that will be great.
Okay. What is the difference between consciousness, memory and mind, and how does, say, bhakti help in changing all of these? Okay. Let me see if I can have a metaphor for this. The soul is like, say, this light source. And the light coming from the soul is consciousness. So consciousness is the energy radiating from the soul. Then, suppose say this is yellow bulb. But suppose we put a red film around it, a red glass around it, light that will come out from it will be red. So around the soul there is a covering. That covering is the mind. So the